So we're a collective of designers, producers, animators and sound designers, all working remotely. Matt Pike, the founder's based up in Sheffield, and then most of us are UK or New York based. But what we try and do is really explore this idea of character design and what can we do that feels alive and minimize it down to its most kind of simple or abstract or weird form and still feel like it's got a life and a personality and people can respond to it in a kind of positive or an emotional way. My background's actually animation and interactive, so I've worked as an animation producer for a long time, and I've worked across stop motion and puppetry through to 2D and hand-drawn and now more 3D side of things. But I think what really engages me is this idea of who our audience is. I've worked at the BBC for a long time, and I think that kind of ingrained in my head about always starting with who your audience is and think about what they might enjoy or what they might respond to. So I've been with UE for 3 years, and I always loved their work, and Matt's a really nice guy, and we just kind of clicked. So what I'm going to talk about today is a little bit on this idea of digital life forms, which is the theme of the show that we've currently got on in London at 180. And I think what we're really interested in is taking an idea that maybe starts off this big and then reducing it and simplifying it and trying to distill it into its kind of overall nature without getting too complicated. So we don't. Some of our work doesn't really have much of a beginning, middle, and end, and quite a lot of our work is loops. So that obviously works really well for web and repeatable things like exhibitions, but also this idea of animation that can change over time is something that we're really interested in too. So what is a life form? What is a minimal version of a life form? So what makes something abstracted still feel alive and like it's got a soul? We're really interested in exploring the humanity in everything and try and bring life and character to anything like objects or shapes or data. And we really also like working with new creative technologies to find that little sweet spot. I'm going to show you a few examples of this, and then I can show you a bit about the show as well. So this project's been, I think it's quite a few years old now. We actually made this as a lenticular print, which we gave away with the books that we've had published. But it's this idea of minimal, fun characters. And these are generative characters, so although they're all of a family, they're very much being developed and moving and kind of clearing themselves Tetris style in real time. Then Communion, this is an immersive piece that you can see at the show. The idea here is we're taking procedurally generated dancing life forms and creating a kind of digital rave out of microorganisms. So the idea with this space is I heard a visitor come in once and they said, God, it's like stained glass windows and a rave. And I was like, I'm having that. That's really good. that's how it feels, and that's how we wanted it to feel. So good. So the idea is that these characters, they're all minimal characters, and they have joints, or they might have legs, but they probably might not have a head. They haven't got a face or eyes, but they still feel alive because of the way they move. And if you've ever looked at like plankton through a microscope, you can see all these teeny little things, and you're like, oh my gosh, they are literally little tiny creatures that you kind of don't realize are there. But they're all dancing to the same rhythm, and they evolve over time, which is also something we're really interested in, this idea of evolving and becoming more complex as evolution happens. We're also really interested in turning objects into characters. So this is something taken from a project we made for Hyundai, who have a big department store in Seoul called Super Consumers. And this actually made me want to work with Matt, because it's basically taking pillows and chairs and turning them into cool characters. So we took all the stuff you could buy in the shop and turned them into characters. And the great thing about working in Korea is you can go really wacky and they like it. Whereas a lot of clients might be like, what the hell is that? You know, we're like, yeah, let's make a chair that sachets, and like the pillow guy, and you know. But it does. You can take anything and turn it into a character. It's all about how they move, and it can make you laugh and smile. That means we've succeeded. This is a slightly different experiment that we did called machine learning. So the idea here is that we worked with a choreographer and used his dance moves to essentially create a choreography, a dance performance, which we then mirrored in the animation and abstracted his forms. So his duet, his co-player, is basically a mirror of his own performance data. And then we animated him back into the film. So it becomes a duet. But this for us is like, again, no face, no arms and legs, but you can still tell it feels human because it's based on authentic human performance, and that's really interesting for us. So Lifeforms, the show, we've been going back 20 years, so this was really amazing to be able to put a show together which allows us to explore some of our older work and then create new work for it. So there's 4 new artworks in the show, including one interactive and a generative artwork. And we've kind of designed, we did the design as well, and we wanted everything to feel characterful and alive. So the logo and the signage and the space is all minimal, cute, I think, characters. So I'll show you a quick film of that, and then I can show you some behind-the-scenes stuff. I don't want to show you all of it because I want you to go and have a look at it before it closes, but that's a little taster. In terms of programming the event, we took the core themes that we're interested in exploring and then tried to curate them into little groups. So in terms of the user journey or the user experience through the space, you felt like you were moving through our work, not only in a retrospective or chronological way, but also a more kind of thematic way. We also work with Simon Pike, Matt's brother, who does all the sound design for his films, and he created the sound design for the whole space. So if you have been, hopefully you noticed it feels quite, there's no clashing, it's all quite purposefully designed for multiple artworks to work in one space. But this is where we started. So we worked with Abe Rogers Design, who are an amazing architecture and design studio. And they've helped us kind of design the show and build the habitats that these creatures live in under the core themes of future humans and future nature, which are the themes that we keep coming back to. But this is one of the first initial sketches. So with Matt, we kind of figured out we wanted to get away from everything being on rectangles and screens, and it's kind of boring. So we went for a projection-based approach and created these little habitats where we could have back-projected films and house the characters in a little house. So they had somewhere to live rather than putting some stuffs on the wall, but rather than putting them on the wall. And it feels more 3D and immersive because of that. Then Yosuke, the designer, he sketched up some ideas for the space. I thought it's quite useful to see this because what we ended up with is not that far removed from what the very first sketches showed. So this is, you can see a sketch of Infinity there, which is our generative character parade on the right, and we've back projected onto a drum shape for that. And then this is what it actually turned out like. So it worked, thankfully. These characters are all created in Unity, and then we design the presets, essentially, and then the app creates characters in real time for like as long as you want it to run. So no two characters are quite the same. Here's some earlier shots of, we wanted all the characters to feel super scaled and like bigger than the humans in the room. Again, getting away from the constraints of a TV screen. And then this one actually ended up in the show, so back-projected Walking City character and then painted canvas in this habitat to make it feel housed in some way. Talking about user experience, this is actually a different space than we ended up in, but this was starting to think about the flow of how you move through the space like you would a story. So what's our beginning, middle, and end? You know, where do you want people to feel relaxed, or where do you want them to feel uplifted or like overstimulated? So we moved a lot of the films and artworks around, and we spread out the interactives so that we didn't have any queuing or bottlenecks, because the space was there are lots of walls. We ended up taking out quite a few of the walls to make it a lot more open plan, and that makes it feel like a much more relaxing and kind of open space that you might want to hang out in a bit longer than feeling like you're in a queue being pushed along, which I personally hate when I go to exhibitions. If I want to hang out, I should feel like I'm welcome to hang out there. But this is just a little peek at some of the architectural designs. And then we loved this idea. We knew it was going to play out in the winter, so we created a sunroom to bring some warmth into the cold car park space in the bottom of this 180 building. And so Into the Sun is an interactive piece which works for 1 to 4 players. And you're basically growing plants with your body in a desert landscape. So it's just me demoing it. It was a walk past, but we can have 4 players interacting and creating these fun character plants, but then also you're a layer in the music, so the more people, the more the music kind of harmonizes and you're creating music with your body as well. So that again is a Unity build, interactive, using a body tracking sensor. And then I'm probably going to run out of time, so I'll whiz through this last one. This is my favorite one. This is a kind of fantasy fashion show. Again, starting with a kind of Chris Perry, our amazing animator, comes up with all this stuff, but starting off with a kind of design language and then having a generative process that creates basically thousands of these robots. And then we were like, right, let's just choose the ones we like and turn them into catwalk models and use motion capture data for that. And this is what we ended up with. And I love this because it's very overtly female and curvy and proud of it. And we've got like really big tall ones and we've got little ones, we've got shiny ones. But they're all on the catwalk, very happy to be in our show. Thank you.